Heather here with Heather's Country Crochet. Today's tutorial Thursday is the Tunisian Honeycomb Messy Bun Beanie. So this here I done using the big twist yarn. They're 380 yards and I still have a lot left. So but this color was denim blue. Now, so the things that you're gonna need to make this is obviously some yarn, and for the tutorial today I'm actually going to be using big twist in the color khaki, and you're going to need a 6.5 millimeter Tunisian crochet hook with a cord on the end, a pair of scissors, and a yarn needle. Oh my goodness, I can't pick it up. A yarn needle. And you're also going to need a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook for the ribbon. So let's get started. Okay, so to start this pattern, you're gonna start off with using your 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, and you're going to start with a chain of 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now that is going to be the width of the brim for this hat. If you don't want it as long or as wide as that, you can chain less chains and make it like thinner. Some people chain like 7 chains for the brim. You can do that if you wish. It's up to you. So we're going to skip this first chain and we're going to go into the second chain with a single crochet. And then we're going to just single crochet in each chain all the way across. And at the end, you should have 10 single crochets. Okay, so there's my 10 single crochets. So to make this ribbon, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Then we're going to go into the back bump or the back rib. Okay, so you have your front rib, your front loop here, and then your back loop is right there. You're going to go right in to that back loop there and do a single crochet just like that. Get some light in here. Okay, and then you're gonna do that all the way across. You're just gonna continue single crocheting into that back loop, just like that. You're gonna do it all the way across, and you should have 10 single crochets when you're finished. And you see, it gives that rib effect in the front there. When you get to the last single crochet, sometimes they kind of look a little funny because of where we turned on the chain. So don't miss it, because this is your front loop here. So you got to go into that back loop back there, like that. And then single crochet. And that's how you make the ribbon. You're just gonna continue doing that, chaining one, and just working in that back loop, back and forth. And you're gonna do it until you have a total of 70 rows of single crochet like this in the ribbon. So go ahead and continue crocheting in your back loops, or single crocheting in your back loops, back and forth until you have 70 rows, and I'll meet you back then. Okay, so I have finished all my 70 rows. So now I am going to switch over. And I did not chain after I finished that last single crochet of that last row. So now I'm going to get my Tunisian hook, and I'm going to leave this loop on my hook. But I'm going to get, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in the end of each of these rows, pulling up loops. So this loop is going to count for this first row here. So in this second row here, you're just going to go in the top edge of it, just wiggle your hook in there, pull up a loop, just like that. And then for this next row edge, what I usually do, you can either go between the two stitches like that and go under there, or if you can't get it to go through there, you can just go through that little space there. Either one is fine. So, and pull up a loop. Go to your next row, just wiggle it in there any way you can. Pull up a loop. Next row, pull up a loop. So we're just going to go down this entire ribbon, pulling up loops just like this. And when you finish pulling up all of your loops, you should have 70 loops on your hook. So continue going down, pulling up your loops, and I will meet you at the end. Just like so. Okay, so I have pulled up loops in each of my 70 rows, Now we're going to do the return pass. What we just done was the forward pass. Now we're going to do the return pass. And this is going to count as the set up foundation row for our pattern of our hat. So what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to go through, pull through the first loop, yarn over, and then pull back through 2, pull back through 2, pull back through 2, yarn over, pull back through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and you're just going to do this all the way back down until you have one loop left on your hook. Yarn over, pull back through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, through 2, through 2, through 2, through 2, through 2, just pulling back through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, all the way back down your row, and I'll meet you at the beginning. Okay, so I have made it back to the beginning of the row. Now we're fixing to start the honeycomb stitch, and for the honeycomb stitch it's actually a 2-row repeat. So what we're going to do is this first loop on your hook it counts as your first stitch. So we're going to skip over this very first bar here, and we are going to simple stitch in that first stitch, and then we're going to yarn over the front of our hook, go under the next bar, and then come around and yarn over the back, and then pull through to pull up the stitch. That's called a purl stitch. And I have tutorials on my channel for both of these stitches if you need extra stitch help on these, and I will link those. So and you're just going to alternate those 2 stitches on this row. So we just did the purl, so now we're going to do another simple, then we're going to purl the next, then simple in the next, and purl in the next, and simple in the next, and purl in the next. And you're just going to keep alternating these stitches back and forth like that all the way down the row. So go ahead and continue your simple stitch and then your purl stitch all the way down the row, and I will catch up with you at the end. Okay, I've come to the end of the row, and I just wanted to point out here, it looks like I only have 1 stitch left here, but I actually have 2. We're going to go into this stitch and in this stitch at the end right here. So we started this row with a simple stitch. So this last stitch here of the vertical bar stitches is going to be a purl stitch. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to turn this up, and where we did that chain basically at the end of the that foundation row that we did, you can see here, right here, you have 2 bumps, a front bar and a back bar. We're gonna go, that's where we only yarned over and pulled through 1 loop at the end of that row, and that made that chain there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our hook and we're gonna go through both of those loops. We're going to go under both of those loops. If I can get my hook in there. Well, that back loop's not wanting to work with me. So not for some reason. Let me loosen it up. That's why, because it's right there. Okay, so you're going to go under both of those loops, or you have both loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, and that's the last stitch of the row. And I like to pull up on mine a little so that my stitches on this side don't get too tight and squeeze together, to squeeze this left side down. So then we're going to yarn over and pull back through one, and then we're going to do our return pass like we did before. We're going to yarn over, pull back through two, 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 all the way back down till we get back to one loop on our hook. All right, so go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you at the beginning. Okay, now we're going to begin row 3. So basically row 3 is the opposite of row 2. So we're gonna this is still gonna count as our first stitch of the row, so we're still skipping over this first vertical bar. The only difference is where we started the last row with a simple stitch, we're going to start this row with a purl stitch. Now I want to show y'all right here a way to kind of try to tell these apart in case you were to like lay your work down and you get confused about, you know, maybe where you're supposed to start at. Okay, so if you can see, this vertical bar here looks longer than this one here. Well, this was the one, this right here was where we simple stitched, and this was where we purl stitched. Well, if you'll notice the difference, let me use this. Right here, you have just your vertical bar that we went under. Well, on this next stitch here, you have like a horizontal bump here. And that's that purl bump. So that's how you can tell what stitch is what and what stitch you're on. So when we start this row, we're going to yarn over in the front and purl under this vertical bar here, and then we're going to simple stitch under that next vertical bar. Okay, we're going to purl the next one and simple in the next one. So basically, for every one of these simple stitches from the row below, we're putting a purl on top of it, and then for every purl stitch from the row below, we're putting a simple stitch on the top of it. So let's do it again. We're going to purl the next one and then simple in the next one. Purl the next one and then simple in the next one. And because the first stitch that we worked here, this is actually our second stitch, but the first stitch that we worked, because we began with a purl stitch on this row, we're going to do the last stitch as a simple stitch. So go ahead and continue this row, alternating your stitches, purl and then simple to the end of the row, and I'll meet you there. Okay, so I've made it down here to the end, and if you're not careful, you'll miss this last vertical bar right here. So I just purled right here in this stitch, and right there is that very last vertical bar. So I'm gonna simple in it, and now I know that that was my last stitch because I started this row with a purl stitch. Okay, so now we're gonna do our last stitch in the side where we pick up those 2 bumps on the end there. Okay, so we're gonna stick our hook through, get both of those loops on our hook, pull that loop up and pull up on it a little to give it some slack. Then we're just going to complete the return pass. We're going to yarn over and pull through 1, and yarn over and pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2 all the way back down the row until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So go ahead and continue pulling back through 2 loops, and I'll meet you back at the beginning of the row. Okay, so I've made it back to the beginning of the row, and you can see how that honeycomb pattern is starting to form already. So let's take a look at what we've got. So we did our foundation row here. Then we did row 2 where we started our stitch with a simple stitch, and then we purled the next stitch, simple stitch, and purled the next stitch. Then we got our third row where we started with a purl stitch and then did a simple stitch, then a purl stitch, then a simple stitch. So now we're on the 4th row. And like I said, this pattern is just a 2-row repeat. So all you're going to do is repeat rows 2 and 3 until you have a total of 18 rows. And then we'll do the decrease row for the bun part. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to pull up right here. I'm going to show you how you can count your rows. All right. So we know that we started with our foundation row, which was right here. And if you need help marking where that foundation row's at, just stick a stitch marker right there, because I know if you'll see, these look like chains, and then you've got all of your chain bumps from the rib row that goes down. So it's hard to tell where the rib row ends and the Tunisian stitches begin. So you can actually just stick a stitch marker in there, and that'll help you remember where that foundation row began. But to count your rows, so this was our foundation row here, where this chain is. So you just count those chains. 1, 2, 3. We've done 3 rows. So that's how you count your rows. So go ahead and repeat rows 2 and row 3, alternating on, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, all the way up until you have a total from row 1, the foundation row, of 18 rows. And I'll meet you back here when I have my 18 rows. Okay, I have finished all 18 of my rows of the honeycomb stitch. So now I'm going to start my decrease rows. So let me zoom in here where you can see what I'm doing. Now, if you want your hat to be a little shorter, you know, you can stop at like 16 rows or something if you don't want it to be as high as mine is. But now we're going to start the decrease row. So what we're going to do, this is still counting as our first stitch, and we're still skipping this first vertical bar here, but we're going to go under that next vertical bar and the next all together. So and then we're going to pull up a loop under both of them. So what we've just done there was took those 2 stitches and decreased them down to 1. So, and that's called a Tunisian 2 together. All right. So do the next 2 like that. Yarn over, pull up the loop. The next 2, yarn over, pull up the loop. The next 2, yarn over, pull up the loop. So that's what we're doing all the way down this row. We're just doing 2 together, pulling up a loop all the way down, just like that. So go ahead and finish this, and I'll meet you at the end of the row. Once you get to the end of the row, you're going to still go into that very last stitch under both of those end loops and pull up that last loop. So once you finish all of these decreases, you should have 36 loops on your hook. We've decreased down to 36 loops. So now we're just going to do the return pass. So pull through 1, yarn over and pull back through 2, yarn over, pull back through 2, through 2, through 2, through 2, all the way back across. If y'all hear background noise, my son is playing his game, so I'm sorry, y'all. And he gets loud with his friends while he's playing. Sorry about that, if y'all can hear him. Okay, so now from here, you can do your hat around, and if the hole here is too big, and let me zoom out so y'all can see it here. So if your hole here is too big, you can do another decrease row and make it smaller. So I'll tell you what, I'll just go ahead and do another one with y'all. On the blue one, I didn't do another decrease row, but we'll go ahead and do another decrease row. So we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to skip that first vertical bar, go under the first 2, pull up a loop. Just do 2 together, pull up a loop. Just like on the previous row. You're just pulling up 2 loops. Pulling up a loop, putting 2 stitches together. Just like that. So I'll meet up with y'all at the end of this row. Okay, so at the end of the row, again, we're gonna go through that last stitch and pull up that loop. And now we're gonna have 19 loops on our hook. So then we're just gonna do the return pass, just like we have been, pulling back through 2 all the way back across. Just like this. Okay. Now, if you liked the way that it was on the first decrease round, you can do this next step after that first decrease round. If you want your hole in the middle to be smaller, you can do with me and, do the way that I'm doing on here. All right, so now we're going to do the Tunisian bind off. So once again, we're going to skip this first vertical bar. We're going to go under this second vertical bar, pull up a loop, and then pull through like a slip stitch. Under the next vertical bar, yarn over and pull up the loop and pull all the way through like a slip stitch. Pull up, pull through. Under the bar, yarn over, pull up, pull through. And try to keep this a little loose because, you don't want it to bunch up real bad on you up top where your bun has to go through. And we're just gonna do this all the way down through all of these stitches. Just going through every single bar and doing that slip stitch bind off. Just like this. Ooh. Okay. Now we're going to go through that very last one on the end here. And do it too. Okay, so now you can seam this up any way that you please to. I'm just going to do a slip stitch seam. You can do the mattress stitch, the however you choose to do it. We're just going to give it a chain there at the end, and then I'm going to go into the back loop of this side of the stitch and then the front loop of this side of the stitch, and then I'm just going to slip stitch back loop and then the front loop and slip stitch. And I'm just going to do this all the way down. And when I get to my brim, the rib brim, I'm going to do it the same way. I'm just going to slip stitch it together. Just like that. So go ahead and finish seaming up your hat, and I'll meet you down here. Okay, once you have seamed up your hat all the way down, you can cut your yarn and tie that off just like that. Then you can weave in your ends, turn your hat in right side out, and there you have your your Tunisian honeycomb messy bun hat. There it is. And just so you can see the difference in the one extra decrease row, it gives you that much more space. So let me zoom back out here. So you've got a smaller hole and then a bigger hole, and I like mine big like this because I have a lot of hair. So but either one is fine, however you want it. So there you have the messy bun beanie. Just weave in your tails and you're all done. So I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions or any problems, you're welcome to email me, or you can find me on my Facebook group or on Instagram, and you can contact me that way. And I will do whatever I can to help you out. So I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope y'all like the pattern, and if y'all do make this, I would love to see a picture of it. You can, same way, you can post it on my Facebook group over on Instagram, or you can email me a picture of your make. So yeah, there it is. Thanks, y'all. Bye.